Tennis is one of the few sports which have an all year round season, and with that comes a huge number of tournaments pro players can compete in. But out of all of them, 4 really stand out: Wimbledon, the Australian Open, the US Open, and Roland Garros. These Grand Slams have generated hundreds of years worth of breathtaking moments, which have captivated hundreds of millions of fans worldwide. So let's now consider the financial side of things, because these Grand Slams bring in billions of dollars each year, and that puts tennis at the forefront of sports business. For example, Wimbledon's relevance stretches across the globe. You could ask someone in the south of Brazil and they would have at least watched a match played at Wimbledon. But with that comes 2 clear questions. Where does the money really go during a Grand Slam, and how do these majors make money? In this second part of a 3 video series, we look at exactly this, and prove how tennis as an organisation has adapted tournaments like no other sport. Starting off with the latter question of the 2, how do Grand Slams create such a vast amount of income in the first place? Most people think it's ticket sales, full stadiums, packed night sessions, or final day crowds, but that's not where the real money starts. The truth is, by the time the first ball is hit at Grand Slam, most of the money is already gone, and already earned. Broadcast deals are the backbone of everything. Grand Slams sell exclusive rights to TV networks and streaming platforms years in advance. These aren't short contracts either. Wimbledon's UK broadcast deal with BBC runs long term. The Australian Open has a multi-year agreement with broadcasters across Europe, Asia and the US. And in 2026, the Australian Open that happened a few days ago once again delivered 2 full weeks of live content across day sessions, night sessions, multiple courts and every single time zone. That certainty is what broadcasters pay for. Not drama, not upsets, but reliability and consistency is the key part. But a more important section is the tournament isn't reacting to demand, it's selling a guaranteed product. Advertisers already know the dates, the networks know the schedule, and sponsors know the global reach it has. And this all means the event can lock in income long before a single ticket is actually sold. Adding to the long-term sponsorships, court name rights, ball sponsors, technology partners, which is a huge one, and clothing logos are all locked in years ahead. So while fans are lining up outside Melbourne Park in January 2026, the tournament itself has already secured the bulk of its revenue. But that only explains how money comes in. What about where the fans really feel it? This chapter is the part most people see: tickets, queues, crowds. But even here, not all the fans are treated equally, financially or physically. At Wimbledon, outer court tickets cost a fraction of centre court seats. Fans sit on grass banks, watch on big screens, and they still feel part of an event. But if you walk a few meters inside the complex, the whole experience changes completely. You have corporate boxes, private lounges, dining areas, champagne, and climate-controlled seating. Some guests barely watch a full rally, but they generate more revenue in a single day than thousands of standard tickets combined. That's because premium hospitality is priced for companies and not supporters. These packages aren't about tennis knowledge, but they're about access, comfort, and status, and they sell out almost every year. The Australian Open leans heavily into this too. In 2026, Melbourne Park once again pushed premium experiences harder than ever. There were VIP terraces, exclusive night session lounges, high-end dining tied directly to court access. And while regular fans bring the real atmosphere, it's these premium guests who drive margins. And then there's on-site spending. Food, drinks, alcohol, merchandise. Long sessions mean long days. People eat, drink and spend without even leaving the grounds. And that all adds to the net profit of each Grand Slam. But however visible all of this is, it still isn't the most interesting part of the business, because there's another economy running alongside matches, and it's one which most fans never even notice. By the time a rally begins on Arthur Ashe Stadium, the US Open is already earning money in ways most fans never see, because each serve speed, each shot placement, each rally length is tracked, logged and packaged, and it's sold in real time, not to broadcasters, but to betting companies, data firms and digital partners who build entire businesses around the information players create with each swing of the racket. IBM has powered US Open data and analytics for decades, and that partnership alone is worth tens of millions. But the real value sits underneath it, in live odds, in second screen experiences, in automated highlights which are pushed to millions of phones before the point replay has even finished. And here's the strangest part of it all: the data economy scales infinitely, because once a point exists, it can be sold again and again at almost no extra cost. Whether that's to media companies clipping the highlights or platforms training AI models to predict outcomes, all of this adds no extra cost to the Grand Slam organizers, but what it does do is increase their income. However, the players who generate all of it never see a direct cut. A 5-set thriller on Ash doesn't sell tickets or ads, it feeds betting markets globally. It spikes engagement across multiple apps, but the payout structure stays stuck in prize money alone. Because even as the US Open's digital and betting partnerships continue to grow, almost faster than any other part of the sports business, this aspect stays relatively still. So while the scoreboard shows points, the real game is happening in the background, quietly, constantly, and very profitably. On the surface, Roland Garros looks expensive, and it really is. The French Open has poured hundreds of millions into redeveloping its site over the past decades, from its Philippe Chatrier roof to new courts. It has upgraded fan zones and year-round facilities designed to keep the venue active well beyond the 2 weeks in May. But that's exactly the point, because unlike most tournaments, Roland Garros is owned and run by the French Tennis Federation, meaning profits doesn't leak out to private owners, and long-term investments are made with full control over costs, scheduling, and the usage of venues across the entire year. However, while the costs rise steadily, revenue increases even more. Broadcast deals grow, sponsorship rates climb, and global interest remains stable even when player lineups change, which means margins stay high not because the spending is low, but because income is reliable and the risk is really minimal. Roland Garros doesn't really need perfect weather, a dream final, or a breakout star to be profitable, even though we saw all of this in the 2025 final. It just needs a tournament to exist, and that level of control is what keeps the Grand Slam in a financial position most other sports events can't even touch. This last chapter is where the story starts to turn a bit uncomfortable, because while a Grand Slam can generate hundreds of millions in revenue over 2 weeks, most of the players who make that product will leave having barely broken even, especially once coaching fees, travel, accommodation, and physio costs are taken into account. I cover all of this in my previous video, so if you want to learn more on this topic, definitely go have a look at that. At the Australian Open in 2026, prize money hit record levels again, with the first round losers earning more than ever before, which sounds like progress, and in some ways you could definitely see it as that. But even then, players ranked outside the top 100 often spend most of that check just staying on the tour, while the biggest financial gains remain concentrated at the very top, where sponsorships and endorsements do the real work. However, this contrast is just too incredibly hard to ignore. A slam can monetize every single rally, every data point, every global broadcast slot, yet this distribution model still assumes prize money alone is enough to support an entire professional ecosystem. It's why tennis can be global, profitable, and prestigious, while still leaving the majority of its workforce operating on the edge. And it brings us back to this original question. If the money is bigger than ever, and the business is stronger than ever, then who is the system really built for? I really hope you guys enjoyed that video. It would mean so much if you liked, subscribed, and join my private tennis community in the pinned comment down below.